As an initial matter, does the defense still intend to call Mr. Walshe today?
We do not.
Wait, what? It's December 11th, but it is trial day 9. Yesterday was a very dense day of testimony. Even though it wasn't the longest day of testimony, it felt like we learned so much yesterday. And at the end of stream, I think I was just sitting there going, and then the prosecution rested and the court let the jury know that they were done for the day and reminded the jury that the defense does not have to present a defense, but that the defense case will begin tomorrow, today. Here's what I anticipate today. We know we are starting in the defense case, but we know the court gave them homework. So the court was like, homework. And the last time the court checked in with the jury, she told them they should have the case late next week. And we know that the defense was pending motions regarding the defendant's guilty pleas in counts 2 and 3. The defendant pled guilty and admitted to a factual basis for disposing of a body improperly, which was the charge, and for lying to police, which was the charge, well, obstruction, essentially. But in those factual basis, the prosecution laid out the facts that they would prove at trial, which includes that the defendant disposed of his wife, Anna Walshe, into dumpsters, multiple dumpsters. That does not happen with intact remains. So with that, we are going to go to court for day 9. I am curious to see what's happening. I'm not quite sure what to expect from the defense, but what I know is that their opening statement, and the court tells the jury, opening statements are not evidence. But the opening statements said a lot about what Brian Walshe did and what Brian Walshe knew and nudging Anna Walshe in bed. And the only way that comes into evidence is if Brian Walshe testifies.
As an initial matter, does the defense still intend to call Mr.
So they, at the end of day yesterday, anticipated calling him first then. I was wondering if they were going to call him first or last.
Walshe today?
We do not.
Wait, what? We're backing up. I want to hear that again. I gained this up.
I've listed as 5 separate issues that it wanted to alert the court to with regard to the expected testimony of Mr. Walshe.
Well, day 11.
As an initial matter, does the defense
Or
still intend to call
day 9.
Mr. Walshe today?
We do not.
You do not? All right.
The court sounds stunned.
You do not?
Okay, she did say today.
All right. Does that moot every issue that I researched last night?
I apologize, Judge.
No, I just want to make sure that the 5.
I think they don't intend to call him at all. She said we don't intend to call him today, but the judge spent the overnight working on 5 issues related to the defendant's testimony, and they are saying that those are moot. It's because he's not going to testify.
I apologize, Judge.
No, I just want to make sure that the 5 issues that you raised and the issue with regard to the plea are no longer on the table. All right.
Tipton looks a bit defeated, y'all.
I will conduct a colloquy with the defendant then now. And my intention,
He's not going to testify. He's not going to testify.
Call any other witnesses?
We are not.
All right, then we'll close tomorrow. We'll do the charge conference immediately after the rest of the day. Let me just put in the record. So the record is.
They have to do a colloquy, and the defense is resting.
Mr. Walshe, one important decision that all defendants in every criminal trial
I
need
feel for the defense
to
attorneys.
make is whether or not they're going to testify in a particular case. You have an absolute right to testify at this trial, and your right whether or not to testify is solely your decision. This means that you are not required to take your attorney's advice.
He knows.
I'm sure that your attorneys, Attorney Tipton and Attorney Porges, have told you that if you do testify, the Commonwealth has the right to cross-examine you. That is the right to ask you questions.
He knows.
If you do not testify, and you and your attorney request me to do so, during my final instructions to the jury in the law on this case tomorrow, I will tell the jury that you, like all persons charged with a crime, have the right not to testify, and that the jurors may not speculate about your decision not to testify.
we're gonna. They're not gonna. We're gonna.
First, I'm going to ask you some preliminary questions. Sir, in the last 24 hours, have you had any alcohol or alcoholic beverages?
No, I have not.
In the last 24 hours, have you taken any prescription medicines?
I have not.
In the last 24 hours, have you consumed any legal or illegal substances?
I have not.
Is your mind clear here today?
It is.
Tell me in your own words, what are we discussing?
Whether I'll testify or not in my trial.
Right?
Yep.
Have you discussed with your attorneys the decision about whether or not to testify in this trial?
I have.
And have you had
Okay.
enough time to discuss your decision with your attorneys?
Yes, I have.
Okay.
Have your attorneys discussed with you the pros and cons of testifying and not testifying?
Yes, they have.
And do you
Okay.
understand what your attorneys explained to you about your right to testify?
Yes.
Okay.
Has anyone threatened you or promised you anything to get you to give?
What exactly did Tipton say to you when you changed your mind after he opened on what you were going to tell the jury? What exactly did Tipton say to you? Because boy, I'd like to be a fly on the wall.
Give up your right to testify on your own behalf?
No.
Have you made a decision about whether you wish to testify at this trial?
Yes, I have.
And what is your decision?
I will not testify.
So first thing this morning, the court takes the bench, says, I have prepared these 5 issues in preparation for the defendant to testify today. So the court worked last night, getting ready for all the legal issues that are going to come up today. And so she asked the defense, is the defendant going to testify today? And the defense said no. And the court was like, excuse me, what? And then the court said, does the defense have any other witnesses? Nope. No witnesses. So the court had the jury come in today for the defense case in chief. The defense has no case in chief. The defense rested. They did the colloquy with the defendant about his choice not to testify. The court made 17,000, I'm a little hyperbolic, 17,000 different comments about how she prepared everything last night for the defendant to testify. And then the court put on the record that the court was not going to permit the jury to hear about the guilty pleas to counts 2 and 3. So counts 2 and 3 are not for the jury to consider because the defendant already pled to them. And the defendant was not going to be allowed to share that he had pled to those. Now, the defendant could have testified and said, I take responsibility for these. I'm telling you, I did those things. You saw me on video, but I didn't kill her. But the court was not going to allow the guilty pleas in. I think the defendant probably wanted those in to bolster his testimony. See, I took responsibility. But I wonder if Alyssa's testimony yesterday made the defendant feel some kind of a way, because the jury heard yesterday how frustrated Anna Walshe was with the fact that the defendant wouldn't just take responsibility and wouldn't just handle the federal case. Now, he told the police joyfully in his police interview that he took responsibility for that with integrity.
I acknowledge I was out of integrity, and thank you. And I'm dealing with the whole family. Unfortunately, is dealing with it because of my actions.
But what we heard yesterday from Alyssa was that one of Anna's biggest frustrations is the defendant wouldn't just take responsibility, and Anna felt it was Brian that was delaying the federal case being done. Do you think that Brian Walshe would say he had to be the caregiver of his kids to avoid going into custody? Does that strike you as something that the defendant would do based on what you've heard from his police interviews? You let me know. And let's not downplay what it meant for him to be the primary caregiver. It meant he was on house arrest. He had like 3 hours in the morning to drop his kids off, like 3 hours in the afternoon to pick his kids up, time to go take care of grooming, like haircuts and what have you, go to the doctor, go to the lawyers. But they never explained that probate attorney, did they? The jury is left to surmise what they may. He also has a nanny or babysitter. He also can go to his mom's house. He also can go grocery shopping. And because he's not GPSed, if he's back in the front door by the curfew, he's good. So do I think that Brian Walshe would delay the sentencing on the federal case because it meant he might have gone into federal custody? I can accept that as a realistic possibility. If he went to sentencing, which Anna thought he was delaying per her friend, he faced the very, very real possibility of going to federal custody. I wonder if in hindsight, he now thinks that federal custody would have been a better place to be than state custody. But I also wonder if after what Anna said to him, that her friend told us, she said that she was falling out of love and that the weight of all of this was stressing her out. I really wonder if he went into custody, if he was worried that Anna was going to move the kids to DC, start a new life in DC, and 3 months into his sentence, send him divorce papers while he's in custody and be like, good luck. And I wonder if part of him delaying it was not just that being in custody is being in custody, but also that being in custody meant he no longer could call and check on her, call and check on her friends, call and find out where she was. He would have had to acquiesce to not being in charge. I don't know if they'll argue that or not. I'm curious. I'm interested to see in closing how they tie together him being out on house arrest because of the kids and Anna's frustration with the kids not being in DC, because it seemed that Anna was willing to have all 3 kids up in DC. I'm curious to see how that plays out in closing.
Does the defense wish to call any witnesses in this case?
We do not, Judge.
Defense rests?
Defense rests.
All right. I'll see counsel at the side of the bench.
The jury came in. They were asked those 4 questions. The defense rests in front of the jury. Court is done for the day. They finished with the jury in about 5 minutes because the defense rested with putting on no witnesses of their own. And then because everybody was caught a little off guard by that, especially the court, she made that well known, they spent quite a lot of time going over the jury instructions. But you know what they didn't go over? What the homicide instructions were, because everybody agreed on them. But we still don't know what they are. We're going to learn together when the court reads the homicide instruction to the jury, if the homicide instruction is just for the elements of first-degree murder, or if it includes the elements of second-degree murder. We're not going to know until the jury instructions are read because everyone agrees and they are not going over the jury instruction that everyone agrees to. So, law nerds, your question is, what does the jury have to decide tomorrow? They have to decide if Brian Walshe committed the murder that he is charged of, which is a first-degree premeditated murder. Will they be given the option to downgrade that from premeditated first-degree murder to second-degree murder? I guess we'll find out tomorrow. Tomorrow, the court is going to come in and do the work with the attorneys, make any modifications needed to jury instructions because everybody was caught off guard that they were needing to be done today. Make any edits that need to be made before they get to the jury. The jury will come in and the court will spend 45 minutes to an hour reading the closing jury instructions to them, telling them how to decide the case and what they need to decide. And then the attorneys will make their closing. Remember, in Massachusetts, I forget this all the time, so remember to me and to you, the defense closes first. So we will hear the defense closing arguments, then the Commonwealth. Other jurisdictions split it, where you hear from the Commonwealth or the prosecutor, then the defense, then the prosecutor. Here, we will hear from the defense and then the prosecution, and then they will get their final charge, and then they will go back to deliberate. I do not think that this is a case where I would expect to see a verdict where they're ringing the bell before all the evidence gets back to them. Remember, the jury is going to want to go through the instructions again. This is an entirely circumstantial no-body case. They are going to want to talk about it. And there are text messages from William Fasto that the jury has not seen yet that are in evidence that they're not going to get to read until they go back in evidence. So there might be things in the evidence that the jury wants to go back through. Remember, the jury's going to have a binder, like a giant binder of all of the Google searches. Not all of those were read in. There may be someone on the jury or numerous someones on the jury that want to go back through and see those again and see them in order. So there are going to be things that the jury needs to look at tomorrow. So if the jury's not back within an hour or two or what have you, I'm not going to be shocked. Will the jury want to take the weekend? I don't know if the jury's going to want to take the weekend. Then again, some of them might. Remember, the language in Massachusetts is beyond a reasonable doubt and to a moral certainty. Some of you might still want to hear what the prosecution has to say about how are you telling me this is premeditated? And what does that mean? Some of you might be like, I am done. I have seen the evidence. And some of you might be like, how do we know what happened? Those conversations can take time. So we'll see what happens. Tomorrow, we'll see what time the jury gets the case. They really might want to take the weekend. Then again, some of them might be like, it's the holidays, we're done. Thanks for joining me. If you enjoyed this episode and don't want to miss updates on your favorite cases, you're going to need the LawNerd app at lawnerd.app.com. That way you can stay in the loop on the cases that matter most to you, and you never know when you're going to catch feelings for a new case. So make sure you get it for free on iOS and Android. Thank you for being here, and thank you for being a Law Nerd.